Jack, it is finally your turn to go to the therapist's office. Marianne mentioned it briefly after her interview, and book schedules for both you and her. She already had went and told you the location of the therapist's office and what time to meet him. She didn't say much about who was carrying on the therapy or anything of the session itself. Just gave you general directions. So, Jack, as you follow the directions towards the therapist's office, you're in this long, dark, almost eerie hallway. As the lights seem to be quite dim, the doors never ending. But you see one door. It has a small little rug in front of it that just says welcome. And on the front of the door, this one has a little etching on it. It's Professor Drift. And it's just this huge wooden slab of a door. No windows, just this etching.
Hmm. I I just look back over my shoulder to look back down that like long corridor, look back at the door and just take a deep breath. I put my hand on the knob and I just think to myself right before I open it, I'm just this just this feels weird. I'm gonna try to open that door.
At first, there's some resistance against the door. It's as if a great amount of wind is pushing back on the door. But after you get it slightly ajar, you feel a heavy breeze pass by you and the door just flings open. And you see sitting at a small table, it's a comfortable couch, small little coffee table in between it, and then there's just a single seat. It's made out of cushion, but it's in this odd shape that sort of accommodates the person that's sitting on top of it. Person that's sitting on top of it, you can assume is Professor Drift. It's this air genasi with this light blue translucent skin. The things on the opposite side of him, you can kind of make out what they are. You see the slight shapes of a couple books. His hair is a little messy, floating above him, grayish white, as it's moving into all different shapes and sizes, but stays in the general shape of a thick mohawk that almost puffs out towards the sides and then goes into a nice spike. Ah, you must be Jack? As Professor Drift just taps lightly on his clipboard. Come in. Come in.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I just start like walking in. Like my steps almost have some sort of like hesitation to them. So I'm just looking around like should I just does it matter where sit? Or
Preferably in front of me, but if you feel more comfortable on the floor, making your own seat, or sitting anywhere around the room, be my guest.
uh, that's fine. I'll sit in front of you. So I'm just like very hesitant and I can't quite put my finger on it. It's just the concept of even like being in like a office is just unsettling to me. As I just sit down, sort of like on the edge of the seat, and just basically looking at the floor.
I hope you get comfortable. Don't feel too anxious. I know this is our first time meeting, but it's glad to have you here. We can get to know each other very briefly, a little about me. As you saw on the door, my name's Professor Drift. Well, Drift is my only name. Professor is the title that comes with this position. And let's see, a little fun fact about me for an icebreaker. I was I am not the same as my family. I was born near great magic. People in my little town said I was born next to great genie magic. Who knows how true that is, but I came out completely different, not like my human parents. And that is why I sought out this profession to make sure people who don't feel at home or feel kind of like outsiders, have someone to come talk to and make sure they feel comfortable, speak their mind. I try my best to understand them, and in turn, I hope they try their best to trust me. Any questions before we begin our back and forth conversation?
Uh, After hearing what Professor Drift had to say, I kind of like loosen up a little bit. I start like looking up at him actually. But I'm still near the edge of the seat, not as much, but inched back a little bit. And I just say, I maybe just one question. Uh, why is the office like? It seems kind of like secluded. That normal?
Are you talking about the inside or the location of my office?
Like the location. Like I feel like as I like look back at the door, I'm like, the hallway I just walked through. I feel like kind of maybe a little intimidating.
Jackie, you were getting this eerie feeling like just right before the moment you opened the door that someone was watching you or something was watching you. But as soon as you stepped in, it felt as if the eyes lost sight of you. And Professor Drift just looks about, takes a deep, heavy, like exhale. Just, oh, good. Um, I thought you were talking about the room. I try my best to make sure the room looks as nice and comfy as possible. Keep it all tidy. It's kind of troublesome with all the wind. Oh, let me get the door. And you see as a gust of strong winds go out of his hand and pushes the door closed. So, sorry, a little sidetracked right there. I was just wanting to make sure you feel comfortable. Yes, unfortunately, as big as this university is, for some reason, they thought to seclude my office to put almost all the general professors, all the like, I guess you could call us your support team, all on one floor, and then give the rest to the different homeroom teachers. So, although you had to come down quite a bit of stairs and down such a long hallway, it's this. If you need it, this will be your support team. I'm here, and there's a couple other professors that are willing to lend an ear, um, tutor, stuff of the sorts. If you feel like you need extra help or want to go above and beyond, or anything of the sorts.
Okay. Just look back at the door and I'm like, all right, that's all the questions I had. Thank you. I'm ready.
Like I said, I want you to feel comfortable. This discussion is going to stay between me and you. I will take notes in case you would want to come again, either once a week, once a month, maybe even once a year. Just give a little updates or however you feel comfortable with. Like I said, it's all about comfort. There's no pressure in coming back. Um, it is all up to you. But I will take notes just so I can keep a file. And if you do decide to come back next year or whenever, I can get the gist of our last conversation. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I was told by your homeroom teacher, I believe. Sorry, I forget names easily, but it's the tiefling. She told me that you and your one of your classmates was having frequent nightmares, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Um, just want to say that nightmares are okay. Sometimes they happen. And sometimes they symbolize something, something deeper. But we'll get to that. Right now, let's just feel it out. I'm just going to ask you some questions. They might be a little off the wall to you, but I want you to genuinely think about these. I want you to give me the most honest answer that you possibly can, and we'll work from there. Remember, I'm here to listen, and try to understand, and then provide help how we both see fit. Okay?
Okay.
So I'm gonna start with this first one. And like I said, it's a little off the wall, but not everybody has an inner voice. I sure do. I get lost with him frequently. But if your inner voice had a tone or personality to it, how would you describe that inner voice?
I would say maybe malicious, but that's more so running with the assumption that it's actually mine and not somebody else's.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
You see Professor Drift jotting down some notes based off what you said. And then he continues. So, under the assumption that it is yours, I do agree. Sometimes it feels like the voice is disconnected. Sometimes when your thoughts run wild, they can be a negative source of thoughts of critique. So let's try to unpack this. Well, what do you mean if it even is your inner voice?
Um, well, I it's kind of a long story, but you could say me and my family, we when I was younger had apparently left a different land than what's normal for this realm, and the I guess you could say leader, so maybe even a deity, I don't know, of that land that we left didn't like the decision my parents made, and sometimes I feel like I can I can hear him, see him.
Okay. Um, I must ask, is that the only voice that you hear in your head, or is there multiple, like one dominant one and then a small voice somewhere within?
I would say the malicious one is definitely like you know dominant, but I feel like there's more. I've there's always one uh disagreeing with the malicious one, and then there's I always feel like maybe it has more to do with dreams, but sometimes I feel like there's like a third one that sort of feels like me but isn't, because I swear it's things that that don't make sense, like that haven't happened, and um yes, that I think that's all of them.
Okay. Like I said, you can come anytime and speak about these voices. Um, I would definitely would like if you would return at some point and we go deeper into this. But this gets me a general, at least some general ideas of how the innards of your head works. So thank you. Um, just going on to the next question. This one's more about others and how you interact with others. But how do you feel when others depend on you? And if you may add to that one, how do you feel when you have to depend on others?
Just as an umbrella answer to both. I don't like either one. I when so when I have people depend on me, it feels like, I guess, weird. Like having people even trust me as I like touch my horn a little bit. I was like, it's not. I'm not really used to it. Um, people often really never liked things that look different from them, and as ironic as it is in a realm like this with this like amount of species that there are, it's not really many who look like me. Makes it weird that people aren't bothered by it for once. Um, but when I have to depend on others, it I feel like as it is also weird, it upsets me more because I feel like that means I'm not strong enough to be where I need to be, and it makes me feel like I need to push for my way a little more so that, if nothing else, maybe they depend on me instead, because relying on someone else just, I don't want to anymore.
Okay. Trust me, I understand totally what you mean by people don't really trust things that don't look like them. It took me a while to almost assimilate into my own town. So, trust me, I know exactly what you mean. Um, but I see you're trying to be more independent, having people depend on you, which is good. Becoming and building yourself up to be reliable. It's a worthy goal. Um, just make sure that the reason behind it doesn't go. You're not just feeding into an insecurity of sorts and forcing other people to depend on you so you don't have to depend on others. Because it's always, relationships in general should always be almost a push and pull. You give some, they give some, you depend on them, and sometimes they depend on you. But I see what you're saying. So, more into the headspace, more into emotions. Like I said, we're trying to get to know one another, so we, well, you can trust me more, and I can help with anything you need. So, what do you do when you are feeling, let's say, sad or anxious or any negative emotion that's not rage or just mad in general, but something that puts you in this almost awkward state?
Mm, I mean, that's I feel like that's hard to answer because I feel like I would like to say that I just try to distract myself or um just go for a walk, but I feel like that only applies to when it's nothing really serious, like if I just feel sad or anxious about a test or uh maybe an argument, like it's like I would say that, but when it when it comes to things that like usher me into like a depressive state or near like an anxiety attack, I just realistic I just kind of collapse. I don't do good under pressure. If it's something that can make me feel that way, which is rare, but when it happens, I can't handle it. Cry, scream, throw up, that sort of thing. I don't really have a coping mechanism otherwise, except for maybe
Okay.
joking around if I can handle it.
I mean, I see you carry around a couple instruments. So I just a suggestion, or something to try to maybe to help keep a grasp on normality. Um, Maybe tune it into some music, sing a song, stuff of the sorts. I mean, not every situation can be solved like that, but maybe it can help soothe, sing a song that maybe your parents once sang to you, or that in general you just enjoy. Like I said, not every environment calls for that, not every situation calls for that, but it is something to go and give a try if you haven't already.
That's true. I just it it used to be something for me, but I mean, I feel like my music always reflected what I was feeling, and it's the source of everything for me, my magic, and I feel like if it's not something positive, it's not worth putting out there, if you will.
Okay, I mean, totally understandable. You see, as Professor Drift is just jotting down notes, it doesn't look like there is much rush to this. Just seems like very light taking notes. Um, and then he speaks up once more after a little bit of silence. So, before we go into the dreams, let's just hit one more emotion. Um, and instead of what do you do at that time, um, what do you feel ashamed of, if anything?
It's kind of weird. Well, I would say two things. One, I feel like I'm not very strong, so my lack of strength. Some of the assignments we've had so far, I feel like my magic doesn't do enough, and there's also my dreams, but very specific. Well, not so much the ones that my homeroom teacher talked about, but there was maybe more a dream that just now serves as a constant memory that I'm ashamed of that as well. Otherwise, it's not much.
Okay. So, thank you for opening up. I know that could be quite personal to some people, and I appreciate it. Now, I know you were talking about dreams, so there's no real easy way to ease into this question, especially since, from what I heard, this is the reason why you've come. So, tell me about the dreams you have. Um, I heard they were quite intense, so just give me a rundown or anything of the sorts to get me to kind of grasp an idea.
Well, to start with the ones my teacher talked about. As I like have my palms on my knees and I'm like kind of like tightening my grip on my knees at this point, tensing up. Uh, it so okay, yeah. Sometimes I see a classmate something attempting some sort of branding on me, and sometimes I encounter Marianne in those dreams as well. Um, and even though they're dreams, um, feels like a little more like more in the realm of the arcane than it is just a simple nightmare, and it's been messing up my sleep schedule pretty bad. Um, is that there's dreams with the man from my homeland that I mentioned previously that my family escaped. Sometimes he's in those dreams too. Um,
Does he have a name? If you don't mind sharing it.
I'm sure he does, but every time I even try to think about it's like it escapes me. Like even his name itself is just a joke. That like I can't even touch him. I can't even reach for his name. But I'm sure he has one.
Okay.
He just won't let me find out.
And are both of these nightmares the ones that the professor was talking about? Or was it a one-on-one situation, which is one the professor was talking about and the other is nightmares that afflict you but you haven't mentioned yet?
I suppose one and one definitely because she's noticing the ones that have been impacting my sleep and whatnot, which is the ones with my classmate. But the one with the Fae, uh, that's been years, even before I came here, and then the only one apart from that was only a singular dream was might sound crazy, but of the future. That's the final thing that has been haunting.
And by the future, what do you mean? Premonitions, a vivid image sorts? What are we talking about?
Sort of, like I can't remember much, but it was like I believe it was the end of our tenure at this university, and we were presenting our performances, and it was a beast, unlike any other, like, just massacring, disemboweling people. Like it, it was gonna kill us all, and
Okay.
like,
And
it's gonna come back one day.
okay. I I heard what dreams are, and I don't want to take away any notion that they are to maybe come true or anything of the sort, but I do want to give the
another avenue of thinking of sometimes dreams are symbolic in meaning. Maybe this monster that the nightmares have crafted for the future, maybe that's symbolic of the the test that all the graduates have to take. And yeah, it's trying to destroy you all, but maybe that's just because so few make it out. So few pass the test each year and get what they truly desire. It's an avenue of thought to think of. Again, I do not want to take away from the thought that is it's possibly the future. We had students that had premonitions and successfully told prophecies, so I wouldn't put it against you. But maybe look at each of these nightmares through a lens of artistic expression. Maybe something symbolic is meant to happen or is feeding this nightmare and causing it to happen. A couple of thoughts that run through my head is maybe you feel intimidated by this classmate of yours. Maybe he's seen to be possibly the biggest threat to you in graduation. The other thought is, of course, the graduation itself and the task, the great task at hand, how very few people pass. And the one with this fey creature, and that is a little more hard to explain, but maybe it's remembrance, sm- small calls back to home, we can say. But I definitely hear you loud and clear. These nightmares, I will jot them down in case any updates happen in the future and you want to come and add on more. But that's just how my mind was working with the nightmares at hand. And not to linger on it too long, let's add some positivity into here. Let's think about what gives your life meaning, right now at least. What is driving you, Jack, to continue each assignment, continue through the classes, and one day graduate?
As I like ponder that question, I start thinking about my parents and like mental images of them, and then of Triggs, Czar, and then I think of Marianne, and let's take a second and say, um, I guess as cliche as it is, just friends and family, you know, like I I've, I've always wanted to give my parents peace from their experiences back home, and then my friends, well, first people to never criticize me for what I am and what I deal with. So as as long as there's an opportunity to give them all a peaceful life, I would say that's my meaning.
That's beautiful. That's a really beautiful answer, Jack. I feel like we've gotten to know each other um quite a bit more than when you first stepped into this room. I love that answer of friends and family, making sure you have people to ground you and strive to do better for. It's an amazing answer. I don't want to go too deep, especially for a first session. I've taken notes. I made sure to summarize it as best as possible and use exact phrasing where I saw fit. But yeah, since it is a first session, Jack, I do not want to bombard you and make you feel out of place. This is just a small session for you and I to get to know each other. Um, if there's any questions you wish to know about me and my life, feel free to ask. But if not, that is the last question I will ask you for today.
Okay. Um, just if I wanted to come back for more, do I just come back, or is there a process to that?
Usually, I'm free. I'm usually pondering over notes, seeing how I can better assist students. So, if at any moment you wish to come back, you can always get with the homeroom teacher on your floor, and then she can send me a note with a scheduled time. That way, in case I'm ever having a appointment with another student, no one comes barging in and catching glimpses of other people's stories that they want locked behind closed doors. So yeah, if you ever want to come back, just get with your homeroom teacher, and I think she'll be glad for you getting help wherever you see fit.
Eh, uh, Thank you. I think I'll probably gonna come back here a lot.
Okay, I hope you do. Um, it seems like you're an amazing person, Jack. So I hope I see more of you. And remember, this floor is basically your support team. So, if you ever need tutoring or if you struggling with any of the classes, any of the maybe a physical thing that you want to get done, maybe knowledge that you want to learn, just speak to your homeroom teacher, and I feel like she would be glad to point you in the right way. Um, with that being said, Jack, it was nice meeting you.
Likewise, likewise. Like I start to get up and I hesitate a little bit. I go to shake his hand. I was like, yeah, I know it's your job, but thank you for listening.
My pleasure, Jack. As you see, as his form was almost always shifting, as if there was like hundreds of different winds pushing and molding his body at different angles. He never really felt solid. But when you go to reach for his hand, you see as his whole body almost fixes itself together and his hand feels solid, smooth, but solid. It is soft, firm grasp around you, slightly cold. Thank you for coming, Jack. And you see the door open up with a smooth and soft wind pushing it aside. Come back soon.
As I go and start stepping onto the corridor, a bit on edge again, considering how it felt walking to the room, but I feel a little better. So try to tank it.
Jack, that is the end of your therapy session as you walk amongst the halls once more, heading back to the dorm room. It's empty halls. You don't feel like there's eyes glaring at you anymore. It's calm, it's still dim, but the atmosphere has changed as you walk amongst the halls. Thank you, Jack.